Hey everybody! Today we're going to learn how to investigate a new unknown function. So the main topic today is quadratics, but this is a general skill that's particularly useful for those of you in Alberta for Math 30-1. For those of you in Ontario, it's more of a grade 11 function skill. But how do you investigate some function you don't know about? So we're going to start by looking at this function y equals x squared. And if we're going to try to figure out what this function looks like, a very useful place to start is with something called a t-chart. So let's start with our x values, and our y values are going to be x squared, because that's what our function is, y equals x squared. This is called a quadratic function. And if you don't really know what to do with some new function, generally it's a good idea to start with -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. And often you sort of want to know what happens with fractions too. So I'll add a half and -a half as x values to investigate. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through each of these x values in turn and figure out what happens when we square these values. So no surprise to anyone, 0 squared is 0, 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, and -1 squared. Now the nice thing about these quadratics, when you square a negative number, it ends up being positive because you've got two negative signs. So the two negative signs multiply by each other to become positive. So this ends up being 1, -2 squared is 4, and -3 squared is 9. So you'll notice already that this is symmetrical. Our positive values and our negative values are the same. And if we square a half, 1/2 squared is a half times a half. So up top you're going to get 1 times 1, and underneath you're going to get 2 times 2. So that's a quarter, and this one is also 1/4. So now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to graph this. So that doesn't show very well. Let's try red. Okay, so here we go. There's our x-axis going across. Here's our y-axis going down the middle. And now let's plot these points one at a time. So our first point here is at 0, 0. And our next point is at 1, 1. Our next point is at 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Our next point is at 3, 9. So that's 3, that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And because this is symmetrical, we can also just fill in our left-hand side symmetrically to our right-hand side. And now, I kind of want to know what shape this is here. Does this go down to like a point, or does this come down to a rounded bottom? And that's where this fraction point comes in. If we go half a box across, we only go up a quarter box. Oops. A quarter box. If we go half a box over, we only go up a quarter box. So if you fill in these points, you can see that it's rising higher and higher. And when it gets down to the bottom, it's flat like this. So there you go. This is y equals x squared. That is a basic quadratic function. That's what it looks like. So this skill of building a t-chart for some unknown function and then being able to graph it is a really useful skill in general for high school mathematics. So what I'm going to give you guys right now is I'm going to give you another pair of functions to evaluate. These aren't part of Math 20-1 in Alberta, so those of you in Math 20-1, you don't need to know this, but it's still a very useful skill in general. So I'd like you guys to try this. I'd like you to try to make a t-chart for y equals x cubed, and another one for y equals 2 to the x. Okay, so pause the video right now, try both of these, see what you get, and then unpause the video and come back for the answers. Okay, so hopefully you pause the video and you try these. So let's try these one at a time. So y equals x cubed is going to be our first example. So x is over here, y equals x cubed is the right side of our t-chart. So we've got 0, I'll just do 1 and 2, -1, -2, a half, and -a half. 0 cubed is 0. 1 cubed is 1. 2 cubed is 8. Now the interesting thing with these negative signs here is since they are cubed, we get 3 of them. So 3 negative signs makes this whole thing -1. And 3 negative signs with this -2 means it's going to be -8. And then a half cubed is an eighth. And -a half cubed is -1/8. So let's graph this. Now let's do our axes again in red. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to start here at 0, 0. 1, 1, 2, 8, 2, so 2, 4, 6, 8, negative 1, negative 1, and negative 2, negative 2, 4, 2, 4, 6, 8. There we go. Okay, and then this point here is pretty much almost on the x-axis, right? Positive 1/8, negative 1/8 when we go over a half box. And so this right here is your y equals x cubed function. So let's try the other function I gave you guys. The other function I gave you guys was y equals 2 to the x. So let's put x on this side, and y equals 2 to the x on the right. So again, let's do 0. Just because I know this function, I know that we don't really need our fraction values. So I'm just going to skip them for the sake of time. So anything to the 0th power is 1. So 2 to the 0 is 1. 2 to the 1, if we put 1 in for x, 2 to the 1 is 2. If we put 2 in for x, 2 squared is 4. And 2 cubed is 8. Now negative exponents, of course, make this a fraction. So 2 to the negative 1 is 1 over 2. 2 to the negative 2 is 1 over 4. And 2 to the negative 3 is 1 over 8. And so this function starts here at 0, 1, then goes to 1, 2, then 2, 4, then 3, 8, and then this way it goes down to a half, a quarter, and an eighth. And so it sort of comes along the x-axis pretty close and then goes up very quickly. And this function here is y equals not z, equals 2 to the x. So if you encounter some new function that you don't know, you aren't sure what to do, this is a very useful skill for investigating some brand new function.